Hi, everybody. Welcome back. It's Aaron and Brandon, and we're here together to do another blog on mental health. And right now, we're going to talk about the largest brain imaging study conducted on children in the history of the United States of America. Very, very, very large study. And what came out of this study is that uh, children of parents who have a history of depression are 2 to 3 times more likely to have depression themselves. It's very profound, and the scientific aspect of it. There's a portion of the brain, I believe it's the right putamen, if I'm not mistaken, is which is linked to rewards and also motivation and things of that nature, is generally smaller, and so it's also linked to anhedonia, which is the decrease of pleasure, and so these decreased sizes in this area has been also linked to depression, and so it's also very interesting putting a literal physiological print on something that we can actually tangibly see. And so it's more evidence to confirm the reality of something that people may actually not perceive to exist. And so, with that being said, I was wondering, what are your thoughts, Brandon, on this reality that children who are from depressed parents are 2 to 3 times more likely to be susceptible to depression?
Well, I think that it's a great study that they did. Obviously, the biggest risk factors are parents with depression. And that causes more of a likelihood for these kids who are part of this study and kids who aren't part of the study to be known to have more of a predisposition to being depressed and having depression. It usually develops during adolescence, and that's what they discovered in the what you call it, in this test that they did. They did it on over 7,000 children.
Wow.
Yeah. It was called the Adolescent Brain Cognitive Development Study, and it says about 1/3 of the children were in high risk groups because they had parents with depression. So
Yeah.
you can see that just from having parents have depression, these kids are already at high risk for getting, developing depression themselves through adolescence. Um, but I think it's definitely a massive study that they did. I mean, it's over
Huge,
seven, yeah,
huge. I mean,
right, over 7,000 kids, yeah. We're just talking about, what it would take to facilitate that kind of a study and gather all that information and everything. And, I think it's an important study. I think it's something that we should all know because that's a pretty high risk group of kids who are predisposed to getting or developing depression because of their parents having depression.
yeah.
Um, so, I mean, the study definitely helps people understand. One thing is that you can be predisposed to depression as far as, having it be something that's genetic. And which, let's see, it says implicated depression, substance use, psychosis, and suicidal behaviors. It might be smaller. Thus, it might be a smaller putamen volume that is transdiagnostic risk factor that may confer vulnerability to broad-based mental disorders.
Also, they're
So,
trying to stretch it out across different disorders. Well, I don't know. I mean, that could be possible, but I mean, you don't want to stretch the findings of your studies too much. It's like, to me, that's like overreaching. It's like, because we can link it here, it's possibly we can link it here, 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 and here.
right, right,
Despite the depth of the study, I would still pump the brakes on that. But as it pertains to like depression specifically, I think it's like a nice, a great study that's been done. 7,000 kids. I mean, that's just like, you know. And
yeah,
typically people, I mean, they want like a minimum of like 200 people to be in a study, and 7,000 is just like,
Wow,
it's, yeah. So
that's a massive undertaking.
tell me, I mean, huge. So
Right, right. So these children, it says, as children will be followed for a 10-year period during one of the greatest periods of risk. We have a unique opportunity to determine whether reduced putamen volumes are associated with depression specifically or mental disorders more generally.
yeah, yeah,
So they're going to be following these kids as part of the study through a 10-year period. It's over 7,000 kids over a 10-year period of, monitoring their development, and I mean, it's just, that's a massive study. And I think
yeah. It's a massive study for sure.
yeah,
But we need more longitudinal studies like this that show things over time,
right,
Because a
right,
lot of these studies that come out are like in this period of time, and it's this much and it's that much, and like there's more lifespan development that we need to see in a in the lives of people who have whatever the condition may be. You
right.
know, I'm always in favor of longitudinal studies for sure.
Likewise, likewise. I think this is definitely a great one. Um, Not only that, but where is it? Give me 1 second here. The researchers analyzed brain images from over the 7,000. Oh, I already read that part. Let's see. Associate professor at Columbia University, blah, blah, blah. These findings highlight the potential risk factor that may lead to development of depressive disorders during a peak period of onset. However, in our prior research, smaller putamen volumes also have been linked to anhedonia. Am I saying that?
I think it's like anhedonia. It's just like
Anhedonia.
reduced
Ability
enthusiasm,
to,
motivation.
right.
Things like that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, I mean that makes sense. If there's a smaller putamen, and that's like the reward center of the brain. If
Yeah.
that's smaller, then obviously you're going to experience more depression.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
I
know.
mean, lack of motivation, things like that. I mean, it's going to weigh on you, and if you're naturally inclined to that based on structural differences in the brain, that's going to be problematic. And it will be interesting to see the further we get as a society, technologically speaking, to see if we can like you know, not in in a technological kind of way where we're putting things into. I'm not a big fan of that, but
Yeah.
just making structural changes to where we can like enlarge in spaces that need to be enlarged in the brain, or like reduce the size of things that need to be reduced in the brain, and still
Yeah.
keep that structural integrity. Because imagine being able to go into the brain and change things structurally to where we're eliminating disease altogether, or neurological diseases and things like that. Not to
Right.
take this discussion too far somewhere else, but it's like, um, you know, hopefully at some point as a society we can get to that space to where we're able to make surgeries similarly to how we're doing it, making them routine, like how we're making like how ACL surgeries for athletes were so difficult back in like the 60s and the 50s, and you'd be out for like the rest of your career. And then
Right.
now it's like you're getting ACL surgery, you're back the next year or within 12 months. So you know
Right.
I'm kind of excited in that capacity to see where things go as a society. But generally speaking, this article I think is a nice big body of work that we can look at and say, hey, look, you look here in the brain, you can see this difference, and this is affecting how people are in terms of how they interact with the world, and they're being more depressed. And coming from parents that are naturally depressed, you're more susceptible to being depressed. And so, I think collectively speaking, this is a nice piece of work research here that can hopefully continue to progress in the research for depression.
I agree with you 100%. I agree with you. I think that out of all the mental illnesses there are, depression is just the tip of the iceberg. If they can get a better grasp on that, going back to what you were saying before, not trying to like reach too far, but maybe they can kind of utilize these approaches to other mental illnesses as well. You know.
Yeah. I mean, and we need more large studies like this that really, you know, grab a hold of something and with the same kind of depth and amount of participants that they've had. I mean, 7,000 kids in one study.
Yeah.
The largest brain imaging study in the history of this country is a massive undertaking. You
Yep.
know, not everybody has the resources to do that, and so in that lane, it's not exactly feasible. But
Right.
those with which the resources and interest in these kinds of things should, hopefully in the future continue to do these kinds of things.
Right. Yep. I agree with you. So
But
I think this is a good spot to wrap it up. I think this is a great article, and with always when we share things, I will put the link to the article in the description below so you guys can check it out. Again, leave feedback if you want, comment, like, whatever. But I think this is definitely something that should be, as I said before, brought to light. I think more people should know about this study, and I mean, since it was such a massive undertaking, I mean, I think there's some really good info in this article that could potentially, help other people understand depression more.
yeah,
So, so I think
for
we'll
sure.
leave. Yeah, for sure, indeed. So I think we'll leave it off here, and we'll sign off for now, and we'll see you guys in the next one.